Hi. So we'll start with Lama Tsongkhapa Guru Yoga, and then Geshe will lead the way with Refuge and Bodhichitta. Then we'll see what happens. So just a second. Lama Tsongkhapa Guru Yoga, it's here.
Oopsie, sorry about that, folks. Page 7 or... No, everyone's got a color one. Page 7.
But we have it on the screen, so it's... yeah. Those who need glasses. I see.
From the heart of the sacred 100 deities of Geshe on the peak of the cloud, resembling the calf of extremely white red. The of Dharma is sitting close on Sota. These come here together with the suns. In the sky before me, on a lion throne, floated supreme, my perfect pure smiles with delight. Supreme pure of merit, on my mind of faith, please abide for 100 eons to spread teachings. Your holy mind is the intelligence that understands the state of objects to be known. Your holy speech with its excellent explanations is a dear ornament for those of good fortune. Your holy body is radiantly beautiful with glorious renown. To you who are meaningful to see, to hear, and remember, I prostrate. Cleansing drinking water, various flowers, fragrant incenses, lights and waters, and so forth. Oceans of cloud-like offerings, both actually arranged and mentally emanated, I offer to you the supreme field of merit.
Whatever the non-virtues of body, speech, and mind, especially those opposite to the three.
That I have collected from beginningless time, I confess each and every one with fervor you great on my heart. You strove for much learning and practice in this degenerate age, and made your freedoms and richnesses meaningful.
By abandoning the eight worldly concerns, steadily sincerely rejoice in your extensive deeds.
Perfect, pure, holy gurus from the billowing clouds of wisdom and compassion in the sky of the light.
Please let fall the rain on extensive Dharma on the receptacles of those to be subdued, exactly as they need.
May whatever virtue I have collected benefit the teachings and all friends my earthly beings.
And in particular, may cause the essence of perfect pure loss and darkness teaching to shine forever.
By the merits of having conquered this mandala to Lama Tsongkhapa and his two sons, may I, my family members, and all sentient beings be able to meet, practice, and actualize the teachings of the Victorious Lama Tsongkhapa, who had the morality of an eminently pure way of life, was courageous in the extensive conduct of the sons of the victorious ones, and accomplished the yoga of the two stages of supreme bliss and emptiness. By the force of having fervently requested in this way, all beings of white light were emitted from the hearts of the perfect pure Father and Sons, and combining into one nectar.
White nectar, the color of milk, was from the opening of the tube of white light,
cleansing all my sicknesses, spirit harms, negative karmas, obscurations, and they increase without exception. My body becomes as pure and clear as crystal. So then on page 13, the middle of the page, the 5-line mid-summer verse. Migme se wei te chen chen se jime kepe wampo jampayan dupum balu jamse samwe ta kanchen kepe sudyen songkapa lo sandra pe shabla sowa Migme se wei te chen chen se jime kepe wampo jampayan dupum balu jamse samwe ta kanchen kepe sudyen songkapa Lo Sandra Peshabla Sova
Chen Chen Rezi, Jime Kimbe Wambo Jambe Yang, Dopumare Jose Samveda, Kanchen Kimbe Tsujen Songkapa, Lo Sanja Pe Shabla Sowa.
Saji Sanji Saji Chana Chanchu Dan Yasu Ji Sana Eje Sanji Shu Sanji
Chandan Soji Chanana, Chanchu Badu Jami Kapsuchi, Dagi Chushigi Betsana, Dola Penchi Sanji Dropa Shu.
Sanji
Chandan Soji Chanana, Chanchu Badu Jami Kapsuchi, Dagi Chushigi Betsana, Dola Penchi Sanji Dropa Shu.
강기 도전이 송에 따라 당시 방비처럼 강기 준비도 이제 다른 데라 참세요. Good morning, everyone. 사실을 취지했을 때 결과를 겨울질 낸데진 결과라서 우리 따라 그 끝 제디 내가 그랬었으라 네 좀 잘한지 되듯이 장발 중에 갔을
Jamba Kali?
장발 공부지는 그 코버트 그래 장발 갔을 때 챙겨 되는 거 같아
Jada, Jampani.
장발에 맞는 장발
Oh,
장발 때문에 딱스 코버트
oh, okay. So there is Geshe remembered one of the verses from the beginning of Nagarjuna's root of wisdom, the root of wisdom of the middle way, paying homage to Shakyamuni Buddha. So we have here at the back of the Gompa a picture of Buddha Shakyamuni, a statue of Buddha Shakyamuni. Geshe brought it with him from India and we framed it, and now it is hanging here on the wall. And as it happened, we were doing the recitation. The amazing Jampa came into the Gompa. And he was the one that actually put it up there. Do you remember that?
그래서 당연히 그 가진 삼대 그들이 뜻하기 때문에 힘벌림 비춰 그거고 이무치들님 수르세 선정도 드니레셔스.
So we're going to continue with teachings from Lama Tsongkhapa's middling presentation of the states of the path to enlightenment. And today we're going to begin with the topic of a precious human rebirth. So going into the text and looking at the next section. So we begin with the stages of how to train the mind once you have relied on a spiritual teacher. So there are two things that you do while relying upon a spiritual teacher. First of all, you recognize the basis of freedoms and opportunities. And Lama Tsongkhapa here is making an exhortation to take the essence of freedoms and opportunities. And then after making that exhortation, he explains the way to take the essence.
Tilda 당아서 기사서치 니시 지고요. 차도 산스나 당아서 남균댕기 비리에 쳐려야 됐지. 대박 당내 연이야. 아니 카샤서 당아 규준미도 라데지어스라 아니 취치야에 규준미도 세대디 안 취치야에 규준여데 메세디 간지통 따고면디 달랑 생각되더니만 안 심슈치 순구에 딩아지 닝과 대기ችን 거지.
This is a topic that we need to approach carefully. We need to approach it carefully because regularly we do have the idea, the wish to get involved with the Dhamma. But often we think that we have no time. we think that although I want to do that, I want to study, I want to practice, I don't have time in order to do it. So look at Lama Tsongkhapa and the way that he addresses that notion of having no time to practice the Dharma. So this is something that we need to approach carefully. Lama Tsongkhapa clearly addresses that notion that I have no time to do it.
Lunga yixing some chode goes minza and indeed and it chewa di candidates so social mother so bigly chile toma machiva mato chile lo macho mato big to zim never down church twinkin samansan dindit zawini mumachik din ratrevado chagris ra.
So we come up with different ideas with respect to the time that we have at hand to practice the Dharma. We might think that I'm too old now. It's pretty hard to practice. I find it really hard. Or if you're a lay person, you might think that I want to practice, but there's so many things I need to do. I have so many jobs, so much at hand that I just don't have enough time to put it into practice. But even if we come up with all those different ideas or thoughts, it's just our own mental creation. We create those thoughts or those conceptions in our mind, whereas if we look at what's happening in an actual sense, you can still practice the Dharma in a sense that we have no adverse conditions that prevent us from practicing the Dharma. The main Dharma practice, as asserted by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, in following the Buddhist tradition that came from Nalanda, and this is the Buddha Dharma that we practice, that came through the Nalanda tradition, it focuses on practicing the Dharma with our mind. So it's not that in order to practice the Dharma, the main thing that we need to do is to apply our body to a certain routine, or to craft something with a hand, or to speak about something, to say different things. The principal Dharma practice is a mental practice. So we have certain ideas that in which we reassert or reaffirm to ourselves that we haven't got the time that is needed for the practice of Dharma. I have so many things to do. I need to do this and that. I need to speak to this and that. When we are engaged, we are involved with many physical activities, or we do speak a lot, but still the principal Dharma practice is done on a mental level. And this is something that is coming very clear when you look at Lama Tsongkhapa's presentation in making that exhortation to make the most of the freedoms and opportunities that we have.
The subject Tangbo, Sik Tangbo Delia, Taiwan and Imbulam Bichet, Kurwaset. Thus, Taiwan and Imbulam person, then one Taiwan Tendi Years, Taiwan Tendi Years, Nieni, and you shall my tell ya, T. Imbulam Bichet, and Comachi years. And under Taiwan and New and Tal said, and Tal was said, Combalia, Tutsi Yobalia, Coco was.
Here it says, in the first point, the basis of freedom and exhortation to take its essence. So Lama Tsongkhapa here speaks about having found this basis of freedom, so having leisure, which means that we have whatever it takes. We have the leisure, we have the freedom to put the Dharma into practice. So don't throw it away. This is the exhortation that Lama Tsongkhapa is making here. Do not throw away the opportunity that you have here, because you're free from a state in which you would otherwise have no freedom. So let's look at the exhortation that Lama Tsongkhapa is making in order to make sure that we extract the essence, make the most of our freedoms and opportunities. So it is divided into three main points: identification of the freedoms and endowments, or freedoms and opportunities, considering their great value and considering the difficulty in finding them. Let's begin with the identification of freedoms and endowments. First off, with respect to the freedoms, Lama Tsongkhapa begins with a quotation from a text that is called the summary. And it says, through rules, the entity of the many worlds of animals and 8 unfree states are abandoned. You win constant freedom. When it says here through rules, it refers to through ethical discipline, the entity of the many worlds of animals and 8 unfree states are abandoned. You win constant freedom. Accordingly, the freedoms consist in freedom from 8 unfree states.
Sanjin John maybe Gary Kameva Shini Mukamba Yinla. Nansu Sunda Hazirimuni Numa in Mukamba was Hazirimuni Shidin with Jawar Dushim Mebawata, Sumeva Nila Shady Tambuni, some day she be named Devichewa, Cho China, Tronly Gombu to the Yala, Shimana Sumi the Kiwi Sojiwa. Mukamba Jitam, the beach Yavi, Tau the enemy, the La Hazirim Shetos.
First of all, we recognize how we are free from states in which otherwise we would have no freedom. So it says, amongst the 8 unfree states, the 4 unfree states of humans are living in a rough borderland where the 4 types of followers of the Buddha do not go. We are free from that. We're also free from being stupid, being mute, having incomplete faculties, missing a limb or an ear, and so forth. We are free from holding wrong views that mistake past and future lives, actions and their effects, and the 3 jewels as non-existent. We're also free from being without the word of a victor, with no Buddha having appeared in the world. We're also free from the non-human unfree states, which are, first of all, the 3 lower rebirths, and then also being a long-lived God. As for the long-lived gods, the commentary on the Letter to a Friend by Nagarjuna discusses 2 types of long-lived gods: perceptionless ones and formless ones. The former live in the region of the 4th dhyana, great result, as if in a solitary place far away from a village. The latter are ordinary beings born in the formless realms. In discourse on the 8 unfree states, gods of the desire realm who are constantly distracted by activities of desire are explained to be long-lived gods. These are the 8 states in which we would have no freedom.
Hilda and Dinza Mukumba get the Tawadi, Mukumba get the Tawadi, Mukumba get the Tawadi, Chu Dribi, 튕긴 창상 상황들이야 문제 제도스라 한국의 기후당부수 다도지다지 안 조직관대 아디셔리 아니 남순가 버다지 뭐 컴퍼 게트 차비기 아니 물류디 미유den디 아니 취치와야 아니 튕긴 창상 상이 뒤주 영향들이야 문제 지어서라.
Now, when we consider those states to be states in which we have no worries, in states in which we have no freedom, it refers to freedom to practice the Dharma. So this is what a teacher, for example, that came from the Nalanda tradition and Nalanda master, and also Lama Tsongkhapa refer to when they speak of the states in which we have freedoms or we do not have freedom. Here, the type of freedom that we speak of is freedom to practice the Dharma, in a sense that when we look at our life and we look at a situation where we would have a perfect condition and situation to practice the Dharma, it needs to have those 8 qualities. If we are bereft of those 8 qualities or 8 states, we don't have the perfect situation that makes it possible for us to make the most out of our Dharma practice. So this is the context that we're looking at, not just freedom in general, but how you can make the most out of your Dharma practice.
아니 콜남지 무기비 타급세야 조다지 자와당 아니 좀만 메사기 라 산지점내디 다지 콜남시티 조 아니 개놈 파마니다 아니 개니 파마니다 소바 아니 딘지게 메사기 다 간지 아니 유일텔이야 타급세그레스 다 딘지지를 얘기해야 되나 알아 아니 다 추주야기 아니 자기인지 만상을 찾아보고 그랬어. 굉장히 만상. 저주야기다 지 직차로다. 근데 지 국바로다. 램바로지. 아니 양아 만상, 엄부 만상 디진바이나 양 피기 남주 뜬투마로스. 상당 투마로스. 다 딘지마이 아니 지 생하시들 렌데데 군조라야 이제 싸우니 메나 내주려고 하더니 나도 이제 지겨워서. 그러 아니 따데리다 산기가 산진 종업이고 말다 네 데려와인다 지 산기무 아니 지 파바 제르시 아니 미나무 좀 아니 겨울무치 아니 네 데려야 무스 아니 춘치니 아니 슈기 아니 둘지 차파위어스더라 된당 남자다 아니 밀리 센덴치 내에서 딱 나선다 지 가지를 세트는 말했어. 진짜 간지 뭐컴바 게트 체비기 땡지 니에서 다 단도 마컴바 지어와나 아니 뭐컴바 게세디 다 람름 뭐컴바 고세지 아니 도주 공바 레모도스 인간주 스페셜이 마도비 진짜 간주다 아니 최제야리야 컴바 문두 세 계제디 아니 셰바이나 가서다 지 Lama Tsongkhapa and Chojipanda Adishak, Zubitachi, Yahar Pendu Solayachi, Maku sort of Chai, Nyangado Asra.
So we understand those freedoms from states in which we would not have the freedom to practice the Dharma or the leisure to practice the Dharma in the following way. The first one, it says, living in a rough borderland where the 4 types of followers of the Buddha do not go. In a sense that if you're born in a place or area where there are no monastics, monks or nuns, or there are also no lay practitioners, those who are, we call approachers of virtue, right? Men or women that practice the Dharma. If you're born in that area where there's no followers, no monastics or lay practitioners, you don't have the freedom to practice the Dharma. That's the first one. The second one refers to intellectual or physical ability that would make it also difficult for you to study and practice the Dharma. If you have, for example, some intellectual disability, it would make it difficult for you to develop an understanding of the Dharma, to develop your intelligence in a potent way. Or if you have a certain debilitating physical condition, that could also impede your ability to study the Dharma, to understand it, and so forth. So we also free from those debilitating either physical or mental conditions. Also, we can say that we are free from holding wrong views in which we deny the existence of past and future lives, actions, and their effects, which means karma, or that we're free from wrong view that denies the three jewels. Geshe says that let's assume that we're free from that. Being without the word of a victor or Buddha, with no Buddha having appeared in the world, we're also free from that. I mean, particularly Geshe says that His Holiness the Dalai Lama, who is an embodiment in the physical form of the Buddha of compassion, not only came to this world, he came to this place and has showered the nectar of Dhamma teaching even in this place. So we are free from being born in a place or time where the teachings of the Buddha or the word of the Buddha, with no Buddhas having appeared in this world. We also free from non-human unfree states, the three lower rivers. And we also, Geshe says that we can all agree that we are not long life gods. We can agree on that. And therefore, we do have freedoms which make it possible for us to practice the Dhamma. Now, we can also make note that here we speak of the 8 states of freedom. So then, if we come up with another state in which we would not have freedom, in a sense that if we think that I don't have the time to do it, I don't have the leisure to do it because of such and such, and it's not included within that, well, it's just a mental creation. In some sense, you can say that, if we try to add another state of lacking freedom to that, it's a bit disrespectful to what Lama Tsongkhapa and the Nalanda masters say, because these are the actual states in which we have no freedom to practice the Dhamma. The other ones in which we tell ourselves that we don't have the leisure to do it because I have to do that such and such, is just our own mental creation.
That's the Sanjin Jomi, Gavikame, she said. Sanjin Jomi, Zaunima, Gavikame, Zaunima, Gavikat, and then you Yons Zobadi in a Lomba de la Yata. Mamushu, then the Shiras, and then it's a touch low and she Shadang up to Kumbaya, one a Casata, Chichina. The chew Tom Sheban Takos Logic. Yin Sigros, Kansana, Sanji choose Tario Maras. Sanji choose Tabani, Cheni, Kanji, Lomadi Tolaya, and Manshu Chunsayoras, and how do the chick Lomadi gets a Mayova, Lomadi Ramia, Chick Salon Chongi, and Rabjon Pomo, Mambu Yoros, a Dustin Sambala, and a Kanji, once Delhi Navy, Miss Hamolo, and Kanji, and Delhi Miss Numanchadi, and Tawa Gate, Sang Devach, Churchivalia, Combo Yodevach, Gasjadam Chagores, Pilia, any Chavegi, Church, Delia Kashani, and Sam Chur Torbaino, this Sosugi, and Madrid Madoti, Mark. Comba maybe Genzinki and Chichimatuaji, Chagmadas. Liu Kajus Korea, Tiwachagania, Samlaya, Chenyam nature, and the Chambanin Seti, Chu Nimboimas, Sanjom the Big Chu Nimboras, Tinang Ping, and Tomani Topi, he said that any new moment get Shetong, Mugi Nimbo Chingi, Nimbo Tadubadi. Tomani Mosum to be shit shagoras. The Tomani Gombayalaya and Chu Kandaji Tomayane, Titon, Tomani Sontan, Chogar mother, Ditoni, Tomani Sontan, and Ditoni Yomar Sage, so in Yomaras.
When we look at that list of 8 states of freedom, the 4th one says being without the word of a victor, with no Buddha having appeared in the world. This is a state of having no freedom. So we are free from that state. Looking at this place, for example, we have the teachings of the Buddha available here. We have the set of the teachings of Buddha that is called in Tibetan Kangyur, that made its way here to Australia in its entirety. Not only that, we also have, you could say that 40 or 50 years ago, there were likely to be no monastics here in Australia, or maybe just a few of them. You could say that probably 40 or 50 years ago, it would have been a borderland, border region without monastics. But now we have, not only we have monastics, we have people that were born in Australia, grew up in Australia, that have decided to become monastic. So, and we have quite a few of them. So the situation has changed here. It is no longer a borderland. We are free from being born in a borderland where the retinues of the Buddhas do not reside. Also, as we recognize our leisures, we can look at other features here within that list, and we can recognize that it is 100% sure that we do have those states of freedom. So if we mentally cast them aside, if we throw it away, it is what we decide to do. It is our own doing. But in an actual sense, when you look at what is stated here, it is definitely not the case in which we would not have the freedom to practice the Dhamma. So when we speak of the freedom to practice the Dhamma and to make the most out of it, to take its essence, what does it mean? Well, the practice of compassion and bodhicitta is the essence of the Buddha's teaching. So practicing that, or developing the wisdom that realizes emptiness, which is the actual antidote to our afflictive states of mind, to 84,000 afflictions. The antidote for that, the actual antidote for that, is wisdom that realizes emptiness. So in developing wisdom that realizes emptiness, we look at phenomena around us. This phenomena is empty. Kind of, we think about it, this phenomena is empty of existing inherently. The other phenomenon is empty of existing inherently. It's not that there are some that exist inherently and some that are empty of inherent existence.
ngaran sam tam su jiresra ani nga del digi gunsen sam maresra kasna ni sam no ya chozo dido na cheres chozo do kechimbu lomban di nangla ya one thani kechim shuchi ani je sambi choji yes kasna chozo di tanshu ro anji ani pygi mandingi ani chi chozo tomati direndas 단디 차라야 직다 개긴 가다 거 간다지나면나 간지 아니 난주 돈다치가 나오다야 진짜 많다 추치 소투기여로 왔어 아니 저도 semba 네 돌바이나 아니 잔자마도 난주 껴지 자원이니 요마로 왔어 만슈질이야 직 사페마니만 사마도 아니 기초야 스키미어스 난주 돈다치가 나오다야 니만 만슈디 아니 zeta soyagi kogobiyor sotuyor asra an tichidi an chanzogi an kachikaba nega chinu soyi bayniya chuzogi mon pugyan rindu tolaya ani pendo chini kasa ani penditinji nega diti chindo as zungone tani same thing di jesu yiran yes ro chanzogi nibo yongin so ro ile chetungin sogi ani roba chini chebayna jimji tengros nibo mengi chigi semshu kede bayniya semshu kede yagol mado jimji teng tu maros ro
It's good to recognize those conditions, the conducive conditions that we enjoy, because when we think about it, we become motivated to make the most out of our situation. So Geshe, for example, thinks about it in relation to himself, and is thinking about it in relation to himself, not just because he's living here at Chenrezig Institute, so he has to speak about it. It's rather that when we think of this situation that we have here at Chenrezig Institute, in comparison with other Buddhist centers or institutions here in Australia, well, first of all, we are one of the oldest Buddhist centers here in Australia, and we also have quite an extensive spiritual program, study program, particularly when you look at what's happening at other places. And in many places, in many centers, you have Buddhist education programs that operate on a limited basis. Like, for example, it might be that teachings or discourses are given only in the weekend or once or twice a week, whereas here we have almost everyday teachings, sometimes more than once a day. So in that sense, the extensiveness of the spiritual program, the study program, is quite different to most other places in Australia. And that Geshe feels that will bring about a lot of benefit to this country, and therefore it is important to make sure that we continue to do that. So in order then to make sure that we continue to do that, there are quite a few people that are involved with the running of the center, the different jobs and tasks that the center requires in order to make sure that we continue to operate in the future. And Geshe rejoices for in your effort, in your contribution. So if you have the ability and you do that, then certainly that will be fruitful in the future. It might be that you have good intentions, and yet on a personal level, you might lack some skills or the ability to do that, but at least you have the good intention to do it. But if you pair up good intentions, but also capacity to make that happen, that of course is an excellent situation.
제 간지 안에 저조디 라마 마부 슈치 덴드 슈 딩이 저조치 다 여러분 친친 델리아 샵자사 네 캐버친 디 지금 냠자지도 자원이 지금말이 삼성기 소비 슈치 모이스 다디 톨이야 지 원이 쇼카산이 피길이야 로버치니 아니 차츠부도 차원 뱀마스와 샘딩 가오슈도스 라 쇼기드니마 코마지아 드론디 주제시드 체가를 유만 드론디 안 남가도 야부 슈치 라 남가들 때나 지 만중원이 지 람르 주사라 삼성로치 베마스 야부 차샤스 베 가오초스 쇼기는 베 샘는 소믹세워로치 베 야부 용도 삼성로치 인제 캬난조 아니 비기 샨데 낭예제 아니 지 내가 징예제 and some of the same thing cuisines and to she's deeper she interests.
And also we had quite a few exceptional lamas that have visited Chimrezik Institute throughout the time. Of course, first and foremost is Honest Dalai Lama, whom you could say turned this place to be a special place in Australia for he visited this place. So if it falls apart, of course, it's not going to be good for us. So it's good to think about it. There are quite a few people that are taking care of different areas of the center, and as Geshe says, he rejoices in that. He went for a walk today, 4:30 in the morning, and he had a look at the road that is being concreted at the moment, and it looks really good. Geshe says that it looks like it could actually become a running course. It's so good. So Geshe thought of kind of using this opportunity and bringing up those issues to thank the people that are doing the work, that are contributing to this work, that have sponsored part of it. Really, Geshe feels that this is all those different things that we are doing, that we are taking care of in the moment, give us some hopes that we will be able to enjoy some longevity of the center, looking at the future.
여기 샨데 피고리 내가 친구리 아니 지 니가 소리지 다지 아니 기주 동바 대댕인 속이 텔레 가와 공이다 텔레 제수이란 치야디 안 게레버스 맞다 텔레 카타 텔레 빈주치 대바이나 아니 용야 자원이 요마라스티 레귤레 자원이 조마라스 조마라스티 이제 딘디 자원이 만나라치스.
So in taking the opportunity to bring it up, Geshe says that when he has some free time and he looks at the other things that are happening here at the center, he rejoices in the work of others, either working physically or contributing to different tasks. It's good to rejoice, to recognize the good things rather than taking a critical approach. If you take a critical approach and you start to point out faults, right? This is not good, and the other thing is not weak. This is not done well. The other thing is not done well. When you see that people actually are trying to make a difference, this is not a good thing at all. It doesn't accord with karma.
라스티리다 딘즈 땅안서 최지하기 뒤즈디 요레스 최지하기 다와게티 논즈레 야지야다마 성기여스다 다와게 아니 조어추세티 땅안서 딘다마 로야레 조어추 땡땡 안서는 성거스 딘자 다 다와게던 조어추 사미 리딘 디 톨이야 아니 다 가르치에 두고리스라는데 아니 최치에 두고리스 더 최세에 비리야지 가서다 미치기 카디오지기 아니 월아야 데데야서는 많이 봐 아니 최치에서야지 소소소기 남주 야기타니 아니 랭이 넘버 체디 최고만 디레버스 디치 두고리스 이제 디 마치 봐이나 아니 소소 메세디 아니 데메도지 니모메오도지 차도 디자 디자오님 지기어 말했어 담가 니모로 디레셔스라.
Anyway, these are the 8 states of freedoms that Lama Tsongkhapa speaks of. Sorry, Tsongkhapa and Atisha speak of. And following that, we have a list of 10 endowments, 10 opportunities. The point in recognizing that we have freedoms and that we have opportunities is to recognize that we have the ability to practice the Dharma. That if we put it into practice, we can accomplish certain things. So it's not that we allow ourselves to be manipulated by someone else, as if someone tells us that this is what we need to think and therefore this is what we're going to do. It's rather that when we look at our own personal situation and we recognize that we have those freedoms, we have those endowments, we recognize that we have the power, the potential to put the Dharma into practice, and on that basis to attain a personal result.
제다 니발니네 장저 나니 단 조추 나니 장저 나당 신저 나스 수수문 참고해야지 책임 나자다 아니 따지 아니 신용문이 엔 참고해야지 엔 조왕나기 아니 조추세야지 순고 디나다 장저 나 가르스나 아니 미니 위기 ombudsman len tamalo
So we have a set of 10 endowments, 10 opportunities, which are divided into 2 sections. There are 5 opportunities that pertain to oneself and 5 that pertain to others. So the 5 personal endowments and the 5 endowments conditioned by others. Let's begin with the first set of 5. It says, the second has 2 points of which the 5 personal endowments are said to be being human, born somewhere central, having unimpaired faculties, nor inexpiable heinous actions, and faith in the basis.
Tela uskivanis, the minimati on Shemata uski said, you take up the dog, you said, can't you chew your sajilaya? Sanji Chong then the Kornam Shu, Dinam, you said if you are Kornam Shin, you and don't have the church of Chansan, your sajilaya, Kiyobano, Uskiva said, Chagoris.
So, what are those 5 endowments that pertain to oneself? Well, being human, we don't have to speak about it. We are humans. Let's look at the second one, born somewhere central. This is the opposite of what we mentioned a few minutes ago, being born in a borderland where the 4 retinues of the Buddha, monastics and lay practitioners, are not present. So not only we are born in a place where we have those retinues of the Buddha, also we have the complete sets of teachings of Sutra and Tantra. And as such, we have a perfect situations of being born or living in a central land.
There the tambo di nganzule coach yourself mini seti mini seti chadam the me nganzu me imbalaya toba the yomartaya me imbadi me imba sorbaina mere slawandi doksho ni khar korasna ta thundro marwas thundro maris lawandi and Geshe machine in the marwas and me be Hashi Tunko means is someone Hashi Tunko was Hashi Tunko ina and Hashi Tunko Nanshingi Lega Chego was the Mashivana Tundro the Chico Chawales.
We skip over being human because we can say that we take for granted that we are human beings, but still, when you think about just the basic recognition of ourselves as being human being, there's still something that you can get from that. Thinking that I'm human, I'm not an animal. And therefore, there's something greater that can be accomplished because I can express myself. When you look at some Buddhist scriptures, the defining characteristic of a human being is that which can speak, but also understand the meaning. So if we can converse, if we can express ourselves, but also to understand a certain meaning, there are certain things that we can do which are greater than those that cannot speak or understand the meaning. So we can think about ourselves as, I am a human being, therefore I have a greater capacity to express myself, to understand the meaning, therefore to make my situation much better.
간지 저거 검신고 말에 장보 검신고 말에 인지 검신고 말도 되지 차당기 차강이 버디 메드 튼로니래야 까까야 튼로 종에서 차고라서 진짜 먼저 디 문신 치비토니 미진자 아니 미 내가 치고 왔는데 소지여가나 쇼편도였어요.
So when we recognize that we were born as human beings and not as animals, we do share some, you could say, similar traits. Like some similar traits, sorry. Also traits, also mostly traits. So we do share some similar traits. Like, if you behave aggressively with someone else, they might respond in being aggressive towards you. Like when you see in nature, an animal being angry or aggressive, another animal respond with aggression as well. So we can do that, but also we can do things that other animals cannot do. Like, for example, to cultivate loving kindness, to cultivate compassion. If we only submit to our anger, attachment, and so forth, animals can do it as well. So the recognition of us being human beings is also a recognition of having the ability to develop certain states of mind in which in other states we would not have been able to do. When the first attribute of the personal endowment is translated as being human, it is translated in a way that it is difficult to translate it, to express it in a way that it is expressed in Tibetan. In Tibetan, it is said that you are surely and honestly a person. That's a kind of really an open-ended translation, loose translation. It's more like you're kind of at the very core, you're at the very fiber of your being, so to speak, you are a human being, which means that it's not that you're kind of like a damaged human being or that you have some partial qualities of a human being. You have the true and real, fully developed characteristics of a human being.
아니 미 야구 차마서 미 물고 소리 차서 들어.
So for example, think about having the appearance of a human being, but still having the behavior of an animal. Like, for example, being born in a human of a sentient being, but behaving like an ape. In that sense, you don't have all the full characteristics that make it possible for you to make the most out of your life as a human being.
Dinizda tini üstü giva konnomji givaç. Onbul samasedi da lengu sosu masonshi. Yanla da minla minna so samawos. Da di tagaranta tini sama.
So it explains this section. Here, being born somewhere central is to be born in a place where the four types of followers go. Unimpaired faculties consist in not being stupid or mute and having complete limbs, minor body parts and eyes, ears, and so forth, which means, in short, not having a certain intellectual or physical disability that would make it difficult for you and impossible for you to practice. Then next one is not no inexpiable heinous actions implies not having committed or caused to commit and uninterrupted actions. So there is a set of actions which are called the 5 actions without intervening periods. So here it says no inexpiable heinous actions. We haven't done any one of those 5.
In relation to those 5 Geshe, so given that we can purify any karma, there's no karma that can't be purified, that this also wouldn't be a prohibition if you purify them.
So we say in relation to purification practices that there is no action that cannot be purified. Even one of those 5 actions can be purified. So when we look at the list of 5 endowments pertaining to oneself, then even if we have that, it still can be purified. So that's a list. We have that in the list in case that if it is not purified. Yeah.
And even to the point of could you ordain having committed those 5 actions?
Even to the point of could you ordain if you have committed one of those 5 and purified it. Dila something else to something else the not so non kalagiresena. Diwashawaina. 아니 차산 샤투그레 사맹아얀 마자마 마레스 는 시게르와 자마투바 마레스 덴라와이나 란종아세 디라 케시 마자와이나 디샤 마자와이나 아니 세맹아다가 샤기레스 네 장와이나 디 카사지 제 두게르와 니디 치체 아니 캐시 사맹만 지직 채와이나로와 dombalengi 가차지 여르베 디 룩초그레 룩초이 마레스
제당기 난다 존 도발뜨기야라스 단다 자점보 고총 교래야 아니 탈비 사베 탈바 차둥 게자이어인자 domba druchoris sonyoras domba lembaris sonyoras 이내야 단다지 땐 다가라야 비게 셈메슬라운 페나 아니 지 파마세발로 소바 다좀바 세발로 소바 딘지 디진 쇼지 바이나 아니 지 람상 코기 아니 셈 주야디 카고 쇼지 여사로스 그 디그비 토기 콜레야 domba tre바이네야 코치 domba 렌도 상요야 소바 아니 콜론지야 소바 카고 여사로스.
So in approaching this topic from the perspective of the Vinaya, this is how we approach that from in dealing with whether, for example, someone can take ordination or not take ordination. In the Vinaya, it is some of the way of relating to those points is done through looking at stories of things that have happened in the past, and therefore looking at whether it is permissible or not permissible. So there was this story of this person that had many lifetimes ago had placed roots of virtue in his mind stream that made it possible for him to take ordination. So because he had those roots of virtue that were created so many lifetimes ago, he had what was needed in order to take ordination. So in that sense, yeah, it is possible to take ordination. So you might have performed one of those 5 actions without intervening periods. So what are those actions? There are actions like, for example, killing or murdering your own parents, your father and mother, drawing blood from a Buddha, killing an arhat, and so forth. So indeed, those actions can be purified, but still, you might become ordained. You might involve with practices of purification, and yet, from the viewpoint of these negative actions, from the viewpoint of the motivation that was involved in those actions, it would be difficult to have a spiritual practice in this life that would bear immense results.
저기는 저는 제가 마트에서 처음 봤습니다. 근데 이래 배나 야부 마지다 파세버 때문에 아니 좀 전에 타박해 와서 아니 야부 마지다 지금 세미기 내지 아니 다약체도 아니 카투가야 아니 파다마 세자레스 키오마레스 어디리 송거주다 이내야 아니 타마들이야 다지 그게 아니 탑케 와서 탑케 돈이 그러나 아니 타마들이야 여버지지 아니 야부마기다 아니 교색 도세치 산점들이 송저레스 간지 아니 야부마기다게 체 다가나야 아니 교버슈께지니 아니 대샤체니 아니 세들이야 다좀 놀기요레스라 간지 세맥이 내 제어버는 간지 아니 디바 타이어레스 라운디 아니 세맥이 내 디비 나노가 여마도 칠로로 여마레스 달라.
And since you brought up that question, Chukila, there's also a story taken from the Buddhist tradition of the king Ajatasattu. I think that was his name. I'm not sure. Sometimes I confuse the name of those kings between different stories. But anyway, tell us about this king. I think that is Ajatasattu. That has killed his father. So it's considered to be one of the 5 actions without intervening period. So he murdered his father. And at some point he has encountered this Buddha and was completely distraught by his past action, recognizing that there were negative actions. So the Buddha, in order to set him in a certain direction, told him that don't worry about it. There is a scriptural citation that he provided that says that one should kill one's own mother and father. So that was a way of pointing Ajatasattu in a certain situation. And still, according to that story, because he felt that great remorse, great regret, he was able not only to purify the negative actions that he's done, including murdering his own father, but also to attain the state of an arhat in that life. So this is what the story tells. Anyway, from looking at that story, Geshe reckons that what it indicates is the ability to purify negative actions if you generate a powerful sense of regret. There is the sutra that is dedicated to that is dedicated to the strong power of regret that is generated in the process of purification, and the name of the king is mentioned in that sutra.
아니 단단 인고디 고츠디 고고서디 아니 파마세디 레단 뉴무거니다야 아니 파미 미단 and this session much and so much but this chagores kanji and ledan nyumugasedi and panjares pangores down the di and shadam chewal the panginza the shadam chewongi and ledan nyum tabares rajum ko tobares ro.
So in the story of that king, when he was told by the Buddha that one should kill one's own mother and father, the Buddha spoke of metaphors. one's own mother and father refer to karma and afflictions. The thing that we do need to eliminate are karma and afflictions, which are apparent in the cycles of existence. Under the force of karma and afflictions, we're again and again being born in samsara. So in order to kill those parents of karma and afflictions, to eliminate them, what we need to do is to purify negativities. If we purify negativities, accumulate the collections, we can then eliminate karma and afflictions that keep us going in the cycles of existence.
And the Congo did that Nenku Sosumason, Yamada Nila, and Mingna Sop, Sangwa said the Dikalia, Chedam, Pena, Pena Lavalia, Kemego, Kambala Kemego, Ming the Kemego, and Duzama, Chedam, and Pusun Sobiama. So deep and Lambada, Kupa Maimachik. Lambada Kupa Maimachina, and show Tolia, sometime towards Kizik, Lava Ming Jimania, and Sam like Yomaros, Kamba Ming Jimania, Sam like Yomaros, Nig Montonaya, and Sam like Yomaros, the Kanji.
Here the second line refers to unimpaired faculties. That's the third personal endowment that we have. So it consists in not being stupid or mute, and having complete limbs, minor body parts, and eyes, ears, and so forth. Now the word mute here could be also translated differently. So not having, you can say, not having a certain intellectual disability that would make it impossible for you, or very difficult for you to understand the Dharma, right? So the word in Tibetan has a double meaning, either being mute or having mental disability. And Geshe here is explaining that as having mental disability that make it difficult to understand the Dharma. So it might be that we have a certain physical disability. Here it says we might not have complete limbs. We might be missing some minor body parts. You might have some problem with your hand, your leg, or whatever, but still mentally you might be completely sound. You might be able to use your mind to think about it, to think about the Dharma. So that physical difficulty or disability that you have does not mean to say that you cannot develop your mind. The main thing that would prevent you from developing your mind in your Dharma practice would be to have some intellectual difficulty or disability.
I'm just surmising that the mention of absence of limbs, I don't think that at the time of Buddha, where you may not have been able to get to the teachings, where else we know.
So he's saying that you're surmising that when it mentions here not having complete limbs, at the time of the Buddha, when we think about it from an historical or cultural perspective, then people that had physical disabilities had more problems in getting to teachings, attending teachings, and so forth. So we probably also have to look at it in this way. Dila yana matsawase di hanan di sangye chomden de sheshu bi capsula yarwa. Kesi lula kyunchi yana wamo matsawa dila sopa kyunchi yana peshe chusun sala joa chushu dila peshe kale kawo changiresa. Tensa ngatso pena chizo dila Numpa dila kesi bambo matsawa dende matsawa ina kesi kamba lakwa dila soba mena yandi dosa lokchon jesa dende chegirawa.
Dia rasta kanji pusun sobi yangla res. Kanji metamed chago mares.
Yeah, I guess like agrees with you. When you look at what this section is saying, Geshe reckons that if you have everything completely present in a complete sense, you have all the features of an excellent situation, a perfect situation. It doesn't say that each one of them is indispensable for the practice of Dharma. There are of them some things which are indispensable for the study of the Dharma, for the practice of the Dharma. Like, for example, needing to have sound mental ability is probably indispensable. But then in terms of having some physical ability or disability. Even if you have that, it doesn't mean that you cannot do it. If you have all of those features, physically and mentally, you have a perfect situation where you can study and practice the Dharma.
단다 ngungi tusu tani yangla mangsangwa soba dusu kapkala chöchibi chagyala ya drogoras tandi tula ya ta ngansu chagyan mamu shujorda ya di togi ani chöchiyala ya gagyen roya yenga mamu chegoras ra.
In some sense, Shukila, when you look at the point that you raised, you can say that at time of old, previously, when you were, if you had some physical disability, for example, that actually gave you an advantage in practicing the Dharma. Whereas now, looking at our situation, we have everything perfectly going for us. Now everything goes for us perfectly. And in some sense, because everything works perfectly for us, we have more problems or adverse conditions for the practice of Dharma. In some sense, when everything goes perfectly for us, it keeps us away from the Dharma. So the last feature amongst the 5 personal endowments is having faith in the basis. It says, faith in the basis is faith in the in the foundation from which all the mundane and supramundane virtuous phenomena arise, which is discipline. Here, discipline should be understood as all the 3 baskets of scriptures. Now, when it says that here discipline should be understood as all the 3 baskets of scriptures, it is studied because discipline is also the translation for Vinaya. So one narrow understanding of having faith in the basis is having faith in the Vinaya training, Vinaya scripture. But here Lama Tsongkhapa says that it is not limited to just the Vinaya. Discipline here should be understood as all 3 baskets of scriptures. After all, to reach the ground, the level of liberation and the state of enlightenment, we need to study, reflect, and meditate on the 3 scriptural collections, the 3 Pitakas that contain the teachings that the Buddha gave, on the teachings on the 3 trainings that will lead us to liberation and enlightenment. So then when you think about studying, reflecting, and meditating on the 3 scriptural collections that the Buddha taught, if you have perfect faculties, in the sense that you have complete perfect faculties, nothing is missing, you have a perfect situation that makes it possible for you to engage with the 3 scriptural collections. Following that, we have the 5 opportunities pertaining to others. Before we get to that, it says, as those 5 are brought together in one's continuum and constitute circumstances for the accomplishment of the Dharma, they are called 5 personal endowments.
아니 최 주비기 차지인데 아니 최만이 주비기 차지는 땅샤와나 이 방부쇼시 방부쇼로 왔어.
As it says here, those five are brought together in one's continuum and constitute circumstances for the accomplishment of the Dhamma, which means for the practice of Dhamma. It emphasizes that if we have those features, we can bring them into our Dhamma practice. And if we do not bring them into our Dhamma practice, it would be a mistake from our side, in the sense that you might enjoy certain conditions, which are favorable conditions. You might have those perfect features, even insofar as not only having all your faculties, but also your appearance is really nice and appealing and so forth. But rather than bringing it into your Dhamma practice and enhancing it, you can use it in a way that becomes non-Dhammic, a non-Dhamma practice. Like, for example, suppose that your situation is excellent, perfect. You have a nice appearance, beautiful appearance. And on that account, you become proud. You become jealous. Or you have a sense of competitiveness with others. You're not using your excellent conditions for the practice of Dhamma. You're cultivating something which is contrary to the Dhamma.
The Shenjurna Sanjichanga Tamchute, Yamandi, Tijinju, Geshe.
Let's look at the next set of five, which is the five endowments conditioned by others. The five endowments conditioned by others are said to be the Buddha arrived and taught the holy Dhamma. The teachings are abiding and being followed. Their hearts with loving kindness for others.
Then see was Della Sanji Chamba, Jonas, Kawa Tamisum, Sosa, Momozo, Sanjivati, Nozutachi, Kawadelia, Nanusu, Kawadelia, and Sanji was changing at the Sanji Tempata, and it never must say that way. Zambi Lilia, and it captured Euros, then was that Tina, Sanji Chamba. That Tamjut Emma, Sanji Santini, and Chudema. The chain and Susu Yemani Remago, and it's shooting in it, young driving. Shooting Mara Kangachi, in some place, Yomalas, Susu Yemana, Kani in the chain near Yuchi.
Here, the Buddha's arrival or emerged, the first condition, means that after accumulating the collections throughout 3 countless eons, he has manifestly attained complete Buddhahood. So the Buddha has arrived, or the Buddha has appeared in this world. Not only appeared here in this place, you could say appeared in the world by and large. So the Buddha has come. He also taught the holy Dhamma. It means that the Buddha or his hearers have taught the Dhamma. Dhamma teachings are available to us. In some sense, you can say that we have a greater access to listen to different teachers, different set of teachings coming from different perspectives and so forth now more than before. So we certainly do not enjoy a situation where we have limited access to teachers and Dhamma teachings.
Kanji Chu Nyamsun Denchini, Chevi Kombalaya, Chen Simba, and Chen Simba, and Chen Gurgi, and Kyotamba, Chang Devayenza, Chetemba, never said the Chagores, Chetemba never Chagores.
The Dhamma teachings are abiding, which is to say that the Dhamma has remained with us, means that the Dhamma that is accomplished by means of actualizing the Dhamma of the ultimate from the Buddha and the Dhamma teachings up to not passing into Nirvana has not degenerated. So it's still available to us. The Dhamma is abiding and being followed means that through that very realization of the Dhamma, there are those who see that beings have the power to directly perceive the holy Dhamma and who then follow the teachings in accordance with that realizations. Now, since the Dhamma still exists and that followers. There are those who have attained the state of Buddhahood in dependence upon the Dhamma before, and there are those that are doing it at the present. And therefore, the Dhamma has not degenerated.
never just Jubanis, should top a tiny given number, Tamchu Musum the Chavi, 2 years ring. Chetar top at the temple of Jesu Jubo. Kanji and the dig Yamsland, Tavi Combat, schedule in Sugi, Jesu Junginchi, Mevaina, that Gunche never deep marvels. Jesu Jungi, Jesu Jungi, Kandios, Jesu Jupen, Namju, Mambo, and Sanji Temple, Jesu Juchini, and it Yamni Chitting, Kandios, Tinza, Jesu Jupadi, Chagores.
When it says that the Dhamma is abiding and being followed, which is to say that the Dhamma remains and there are still followers of the Dhamma, and it means that through that their realization of the Dhamma, there are those who see the beings, that beings have the power to directly perceive the holy Dhamma and who then follow the teachings in accordance with that realization. It means that we still have those that practice the teachings and develop realizations. And without having those who still follow the teachings, the continuity of the lineages of the teachings would have been severed. Since the lineage is not cut off, the continuity is not severed, there are those that use their power of wisdom, use their intelligence, and continue to gain realization. Now the final one says, hearts with loving kindness for others means that there are almsgivings and benefactors who grant monastic robes and the like.
Ani sewa chichini, ani chiu jimbala soba, ani roba chiala soba, tan timchi chingi yorwas, and telaya kuchorwas.
And here Lama Tsongkhapa explains the last feature is of hearts with loving kindness for others in relation to those that support the Sangha community. But Geshe reckons that you can also have a more broader interpretation of that feature. There are also lay practitioners. There are those who, lay practitioners that teach others with a sense of loving kindness and concern for others. And therefore the hearts, there are those that have hearts with loving kindness for others. Not only monastics, but also lay practitioners. As these five are present in the continuum of others and constitute circumstances for the accomplishment of the Dhamma, the practice of the Dhamma, there are endowments conditioned by others. Now, if we are human beings that have these features, it means that we have favorable circumstances. And what we then need to do is to bring them into our practice. If we bring them into our practice, it means that we take the essence of freedoms and opportunities. Shall we leave it here for now? Jumper? Low jumper.
Generate the gratitude and inspiration to practice the Dhamma. So sort of the lists themselves are less important, rather it's that kind of inspiration and gratitude to generate. And I'm not making Geshe to agree with that gratitude and inspiration to be generated in any way, not necessarily following the lists like that. For example, if I sit down and think how wonderful I am, how fortunate I am to not be an earthworm, it doesn't really do much for me.
Yeah.
So, and sometimes it can sort of seem like that from a list, like to consider how fortunate I can be a human and I'm not an animal. It doesn't really seem to generate that gratitude. So it seems to me like anything which can sort of elicit that type of inspiration and gratitude is really what the teaching of freedom and balance is about. Does that make sense?
So I'll repeat your question for the sake of the people at home. And I'll probably have to paraphrase some of it because I can't remember it verbatim, but you said that the purpose of this exhortation is to find inspiration for the practice of Dhamma. So to go over the list that is provided here, the 8 freedoms and the 10 endowments, you're wondering if it is absolutely necessary to go over all the items in that list, because it's not necessarily that your mind will be moved by each one of them. And you also said that there are likely to be other ways of finding inspiration to practice the Dhamma. Like, for example, when you think of I'm free of being an earthworm, it doesn't really move your heart, thinking that I'm a human being, I'm not an animal. It doesn't kind of create a lot of inspiration. So we have that list, things that you can go through in your meditation, but just as well you can say that the main purpose of this topic is just to make sure that we have this motivation, that we have this kind of inspiration to practice the Dhamma. Yeah. Tawa jetan jowa chu sashka. Tadila Vision Mingyu Tsodi Chucha Gikulon Shucha Sangu Tebne Kulon Shucha Kiagi Chedu Tawa jetan Sheju Tan Jowa Chu Shigirwa. Tadi Nenga Chobge Ditola Sanotan Inalwa. Halamian Chucha Gikuma Shembayanto Nenga Shembatola Sanotan Chogirwa. Di Choge di Chupamalwa. Yamena Takuran de boom means Tundrumain, Sanotawaina. Then the Sengu Teva, then the Sangyo Shidaju Maresa. Chazandi Tajo Milurim, which is Sanotawaina. Chobge di Monsek, Zoke Chamare, Sengutea Kecharwa. Sengutea Chujagi Kunon Shukcha, Kandechi Lewaina. Tunda to dirwas, Kanandi Kelengi was, Kelengi was.
Killingless. Killing someone sounding killing is.
Yeah, Geshe, first of all, Geshe agrees with you. Even more so, he agrees with whatever you say.
The two not to church goers, church church and it Tawaji won't turn to go to Mountain to go Kevas Kiamaris.
The main point here is to practice the Dhamma. So if you practice the Dhamma and you don't think of the 8 freedoms, if you haven't recognized 8 freedoms, but you practice the Dhamma, it's all right.
Chambala Ninja up big away is right. Ngani Kupe Awards, Chambaya Kupe is big away Chambala. And he could show you wishing this. You can the Chambala Tropoche, Chambala visit to the Tende, and can look here at this draw.
Geshe likes having conversation with Jampa, kind of answering some of Jampa's queries. Jampa has not only good attitude in relation to the Dhamma, he also knows a lot. So Geshe really enjoys having conversation with Jampa. And also, if you guys have questions for Jampa or you want to get some perspective over some points in the Dhamma practice, Jampa is an excellent person to talk to.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. So let's do the dedication prayers. We're going to do them in English this time. But the Supreme Jewel Bodhichitta that is not arisen, arise and grow, and may that which is arisen not diminish, but increase more and more. Due to the merits of these virtuous actions, may I quickly attain the state of the Guru Buddha, and lead all living beings without exception into that enlightened state. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good, all powerful Tenzin Gyatso, Please remain until samsara ends. You uphold the subduous moral way, says the bountiful bearer of all, sustaining, preserving, and spreading Manjunath's victorious doctrine, who masterfully accomplished magnificent prayers on the three jewels. Sever of myself and others, your disciples, please live long. Sorry. Oh yeah. So we will continue with the Lamrim teaching also through to December. We're gonna continue till the 18th. After the 18th, we have Christmas. Also, we're gonna have a day break for Christmas, and after that, we have a Vajrasattva retreat, the annual Vajrasattva retreat. The details are still coming, so we're formulating them. So I guess the plan ahead. I think that as far as I remember, correct me if I'm mistaken, we are gonna do it quite open. People would be able to attend some sessions. If you can come for a few sessions, please do so. You can also maybe attend them from home, I don't know. We're gonna discuss it afternoon.
We're discussing this afternoon.
Yeah, but after that, even better, or not even better, just as good, we also have a Lamrim course at the beginning of next year. So that's what's going to happen for the next few Fridays after that, right? So we're continuing with Lamrim Tsongkhapa stakes till the 18th. Then we have a Vajrasattva retreat. Then we have 2 weeks Lamrim course. A Lamrim course. And then we're going to resume with Lamrim Tsongkhapa's teachings. And then we also have December, I think it's December 10th, it's called Lamrim Tsongkhapa Day, or in Tibetan Ganda Namchu. So it's going to be Thursday. In the morning, we're going to have a massive Guru Puja. I think that it's at 9:30, scheduled at 9:30. So if you do have the time, you're most welcome to join us. In the afternoon, His Holiness the Dalai Lama is giving online teachings on, I think, praises to the Plant Rising, and also Lamrim teaching. So we're going to view it here at the Gompa. You're also welcome to join us. In the evening, Geshe will do a Q&A session. So if you do have questions, things that you always wanted to know about Dharma, Geshe, and so forth, prepare your questions. And after that, since Lamrim Tsongkhapa Day is like Buddhist Christmas, so to speak, in a sense that you put a lot of lights everywhere. We're going to go out to the garden, to the Nalanda Master Garden. We're going to have a presentation of light, hopefully, in some sort. And we're probably going to do some prayers, including the Mixima verse. So that's the plan for December 10th, which I think that December 10th, as far as I remember, it's also the anniversary for His Holiness the Dalai Lama's becoming a laureate of the Nobel Peace Prize. So it's kind of double jeopardy, so to speak. Yeah, even better.
And 먼저 간댕감줄이야. 남주 초피고라스. 이천한저 망초 각주 망원 시작투에나 야우pen. 먼저 람름 기즈르트에 이천한저 하다보다 행 가우초스스. 먼저 론디나마에 망초가 람름 중이까지 아주 차치야네 로여서 안 간댕감줄이는데 상황 루루치치 남주 초피나 야우pen도스. 디칼이야. 이천한저 겐데버 소리야. 아니 비비 고용 소리 에스테스 퓨투바이나 야우페어레스 덴사칼이야. 겐지 직 준비체서기 아니 뒤진 캐벌진지네 진 아니 직 소소래요. 소소진 좋아할 바비 인투스 아니 겐데르데네 투스 퓨고레스 겐지 퓨투바이나 야고요레스 단다발라 룩스요 말이 아니 직 미지기 말라바이나 제싱을 말아왔어. 당니 아니 싱기언데 당이 말라바이나 디야고 모도스 연치 날지 케주스에서 빌리 마르다스 한줄이 디 룩스디 디 양다 룩스 야고트 초사드르전 고급디 먼저 쭉고고 쭉투고고 디 인상이 괜찮은 꼬만 치기스.
So as we said, December 10th is in Tibetan Ganden Namcho or Lamrim Kappa Day. So in the morning, as we said, we have a Guru Puja, including sok offering. If you can come, Geshe really encourage you to do that. We've been following Lamrim Kappa's teaching this year. We also continue to study Lamrim Kappa's teaching. So if we can also come together for Lamrim Kappa Day during Guru Puja, Lamrim Kappa that is also involved with Lamrim Kappa, and to also make sok offering, Geshe feels that that's a kind of a good thing to do. So if you can, please come. You're welcome to come. Also, another thing that you can do during this day, and Geshe says that this is an awkward position to say that, but it kind of, since he's the teacher here, coming from the Tibetan tradition, coming from monastic tradition, so it's also good to mention what people that grew up in this Buddhist environment do in that day, which is also making offerings to monastics. So during the day, also people in Tibetan society go over, monasteries, make offerings to monastics. If you want to do that, make kind of small offerings, a small contribution, that would also be okay. Geshe says that that would also be good. Geshe says that it's an awkward thing to say because it might sound as if he's saying, "Give me your offering," but it's not. No, it's not saying "Give me your offering." It's rather that part of being here as the resident teacher is also introducing Buddhist habits or customs in a place where we don't have the habits of doing that. We don't have the culture of doing that. So that could be a good thing to consider. If you want to do that, you're also welcome to do it.
Isn't it more about it's a merit multiplying day?
Is it a merit multiplying day?
It's from that perspective that the robes are a high merit field, and that's why you give not to the people necessarily in the robe.
Yeah.
They are
Yeah.
but it's a merit.
Just nima dila yandi shende piwe ina ra chube piwe ina yandi nima dila dagan peshe sensan yamana dosang tsesang di insang ani sonang ki lega kanche ba di dablo manga dende chagires pegires ne chi lagi yotsan chesan kabdila shende piwe ina di chache kumbek sengi 디라테네 소남 베기 저기레스 텐을 라치요 로소치요
다른 상담을 디고레스 저조디 이제 아니 간징한도 디 루스도 쭉두고레스 당이 답니 줄을 좀 줄어서야지 저랑 고무치 때는 고무 야차르세 땡이 랍싱한데스라 이내야 팬도 빼요 야부 빼요 딩한도 루스 쭉두고레스 난주 단다 다지 nga shasho baros ani nabsho bi nalo le ya chi ani nga nabi chu chu gor le ne ya chi shasho ba na shin gi chi ani chi chobo pya gi chi lukso do di chi dan de yor de ne ya tes chi shembu ro chi thon so sra di yo ba na di ki me shen le ya de ba ki ya re an chi so so ni na gawa go ya re sama ga pen go sra.
Yeah, that could be one way of speaking about it or thinking about it. But Geshe says that sometimes it sounds a little bit awkward because it might be also understood, or you can think about it as if you make a donation, for example, of $1, it's like making a donation of $100. If everything multiplies. And Geshe says that then these calculations become something that he himself is somewhat uncomfortable with, but also it doesn't really know how to relate to that. So if you can think about it like that and it helps you, that's good. But then Geshe feels that just bringing up this point is something to speaks about those issues because we come from different cultures, different backgrounds. Geshe comes from an Oriental background. We come from an Occidental background. No, at least most of us. So then we have different habits. Geshe feels that since the Buddhist tradition is moving to a place like that, and it comes with certain values, certain practices, certain habits, and so forth, it's good to at least introduce some of them to a different society, a different culture, and so forth. And this is the reason why Geshe is bringing it up here. So it's not to say that we never give donations, offerings, and so forth. Of course, we do that, but it seems that Geshe says that still, in comparison with Oriental societies, it seems that people are kind of less inclined to do it. So it's good sometimes just to think about it and introduce that also to a following of the Buddhist tradition.
난 민구절에 저들이요 그랬어. 이쯤이 지원 찍고도 땅고 말했어. 지원 이 지원 기준을 이 랍소리 이 지원 대신을 이 랍소리 이 지원 취지를 이 지원 안에 싸워서 이 랍소리 지진대로 지원이나 나도 니님들에 간지 빼니지 우차그랬어.
제가 저게 dumala. Now the ningongi hablas en Gondaro.
gonda.
So then on that evening, December 10th in the evening, Geshe thought of doing a question and answer session, but it's not that it's only with him. No, we can do it like a Sangha Q&A question. So you can also, if you have questions to me, to Churki, to the new nuns here, if you have questions to the Sangha community, please don't hold back.
자 가리는 뒤져도 걔나 배는 걔나 랍도 좀 소화 가르쳐 줬어요. 간다지는 걔나 랍도 좀도 줬어요. 근데 가리는 지대로 밴들로기라 그랬어. 밴인지 우차 그랬어.
It could become really nice if you have questions like, for example, what's your reasons for becoming a monastic? What's your experience living as a nun? How did it influence your mind or transform your mind? When we have those conversations, it can really contribute to a way of relating to each other, and also personally, there might be something that you could get from that. So thank you. Let's see what you do now. No. So we don't have food today, right? Dila. Dila 토가라 솔라드는 저요로 다들 솔라디 컴퍼니기 저게로 다들 진짜 주니라 다리 니 야마네 다리 실라 내가 저쪽으로 했어 다리 니세디 사 하파르 가디랑 저 준주 따로 사 판산디 람림 사 다리시 사 판산로 람림 따로 다들 카드를 제목os 마소와이나 아슬롬 시기 인사이나 페시코즈 다와까지 그리고 살았어. 제상 다리니 치나 다리시 치나 그런 사람. 마삼나 다리니라 치나 야간 멤버. 제상 칸선 다리니나 수준주 땅이라고. 맞아. 다 주주만 좀 볼까요? 이제는 다리 미만데 사파산 있잖아. 선서 제에서 맞지 못 그래. So do we have coffee though?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Coffee, cake, chai. tea.